Hi, friends. Welcome to another edition of our CEO panel live. I have a really special guest with us today, and Connor is with a company called Crystal Knows, and I cannot wait for him to share with you guys what they bring to the table. I was introduced to Crystal Knows through my coach, Wayne, if you're listening. Hi, Wayne. But something that we're so passionate about is digging deep into personalities within our organization, how we can better work together, how we can better communicate together. And the platform that you guys have created is bar none the best that I've seen out there. And we're so excited to share it with the listeners. So, Connor, I want to give you a chance just to introduce yourself and kind of what you do as the customer success manager with Crystal Knows.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me here. This actually is my first Facebook Live, so
Oh, nice.
super
I'll be
excited.
easy on you. Don't worry.
I'm excited as well. So obviously, guys, my name's Connor. I work at Crystal Knows, which is actually a tech startup. We've been in business for about 7 years, and it's completely derived around the disc model. So we have a bunch of different types of products, but before we kind of get into that, I'll just kind of tell you a little bit more about myself. I am from the West Coast. I grew up playing water polo, so like team sports, all around team camaraderie, communication, things like that. And I actually graduated, went straight into finance, where I learned disc for the first time. So I was in finance, I was in sales, individual like business consulting type things, and I really like when I learned about disc. It kind of was an eye-opening experience for me. I learned that disc is really a life tool. A lot of people use it as a business tool, but at the end of the day, it's just how you communicate with people effectively. So I'm really, really passionate about this. I joined the Crystal team. It's kind of a funny story, actually, how I found out about it. But I basically was doing a career change and wanted to get into something a little bit more new for me. And I was actually moving. I'm now in Nashville, so San Diego to Nashville. I bought a house recently, so this is all going to be extremely relevant to today's conversation. But I wanted to try something new, and I just stumbled across Crystal, found out they specialized in disc. It was a huge passion of mine, and it's been great. So we are growing rapidly. I joined the team in, I want to say March of this year, and I'm not even close to being the newest person. So we are rapidly growing, specifically the customer success side of things. I was brought in from our director of customer success. I was his first hire, and it's been a whirlwind, and it's been great working with you guys so far. So we can get into what we do if you want right now, Amanda.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, one thing for us, we were looking for a tool to assess personalities, do onboarding, team communication, like all different things. And you guys were able to provide something that was like a one-stop shop, which is so easy to read. And I want to share it with the audience. And, I told Connor, I was like, I have nothing to hide. I'm going to totally share my own personality. Normally Connor does his, but I'm like, you know what, let's just share mine and walk through it. I think it's so important for people to see, like, especially people that are listening that know me, they're going to be like, oh my God, this is so Amanda, this is crazy. Yeah. But it does so much more than just disc, right? And that's what I really, really want to show to the audience. So I'm going to share my screen really quick where you guys can see my personality.
There you go. And then to kind of briefly talk about what she's talking about, different products. We have a Teams product, which is specifically for internal team purposes, building your culture, really looking at colleagues and coworkers and how to better communicate with them. We have a sales product where we have a Chrome extension built into LinkedIn, and you're actually able to predict someone's disc type in 3 seconds just based off their LinkedIn.
So awesome.
Yeah. That really made us, I would say, go viral. So we've been in business for 7 years, but when we perfected that AI enough to where that was highly accurate, that really put us on the map there. And then we also have a whole hiring talent acquisition side. So it is really a one-stop shop. It's a great tool. I'm glad you've had success with it so far.
Absolutely. We've had major success. So I just pulled up my personality profile and kind of how it breaks everything down. But first, I want to jump into the ease of it, right? How easy it was to actually take the assessments. If you'll just kind of touch on that for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I'll just touch on disc real quick. I know we probably have a lot of people that know what it is. Some people are like, no idea what's going on here with DISC. So basically, DISC has been around for over 100 years. It's just a behavioral framework. It's just a personality model that's been around for 100 years. The same person that created it also actually created the polygraph machine or the lie detector test. So like a ton of science behind DISC. But all it is it's a way to identify who your audience is or who you are, or who your colleagues are, what motivates them, their personality, their stressors, strengths, blind spots, just really what they value. And I guess just the overarching idea here is if you can understand who you're talking to and understand how to, like we call it facilitate a behavioral change. So how you just tilt the way you communicate to better align with your audience. That's really the whole goal here. So I guess the ease of the test is we took some companies, like I said, it's been around for a long time. So a lot of different companies do DISC. We took usually a very lengthy test and condensed it down to about a 10-15 minute assessment with a 97% accuracy score. So
Amazing.
yeah, and basically all it does, and you can even, if you click retake assessment, Amanda, it'll just show a quick on the far right. Yeah, it'll just show a quick. Basically, it just says, what are you most like? What are you least like? And you just answer. I think it's about 30 of these sort of questions, and that's basically the test. So not super intrusive as far as lengthwise, but it does ask you some somewhat personal questions. I would just hit backspace, and it'll get you back there.
All right.
Yeah.
There we go. So when I took the assessment, it was super easy for me. And like I said, it was very, very accurate when it came out. But what I love about it is, tell me about how you took the DISC, right? Which a lot of people do know, those four categories, but you took it and broke it down into like 16 different types, correct?
Yeah. So we call them archetypes. And like DISC isn't it's not proprietary by any means, but we have taken some of it and actually tweaked it and modified it. So each one of the 4 primary traits. So you have D types, I types, S types, and C types. And depending on the company, they have different names for that. As far as some are drivers, we call ours dominance. But basically, we've taken each one of those 4 primary traits and we subdivide them into 4 categories. So there's 16 on the map, like holistically all together. And it basically shows like we're complex. We have multiple different sides of our personality. This isn't like a one size fits all. Oh, you're a D type. Oh, you're an I type. And you can show blends of people's personality a lot better with archetypes. So
yes, I did. I love that part. So, and then actually this here breaks it down by the actual assessment, right? Which
yeah,
I'm a very, very high D if you can't see that, which is awesome.
But it even shows, you do have some complexity in your personality where you do have
right.
some S, you do have some C, you definitely have I. That probably changes depending on the situation you're in yourself. So.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about the archetypes here and what was the science really behind breaking it out?
Yeah, so our founder, Drew, we have a couple, but Drew is basically the end-all be-all, knows everything about multiple different types of personality assessments. And it's not rare for people to do the DI-ID type blends, but actually be able to break it down and create specific characteristics behind it was from years and years of research. And it just shows holistically, I guess, if you look at so you're a D, little I, if you moved over 1 to the D, just the pure D, you're still going to be a very similar person. You're not going to see massive changes, but there might be certain little, quirks or characteristics that you lean towards that, let's say I, who happen to be a very D person, I'm a captain archetype myself, very slightly there. So, but it's enough worth talking about and mentioning because those little differences can mean that the world between a miscommunication and you not understanding someone and you learning how to actually value their opinion, communicate better with them. So it was years of research by our founder. I'm glad I didn't have to do that.
Yes.
But you'll see major differences between, let's say, so if you moved over 1 from yourself to a big D, big I, that would be a pretty drastic change from the architect archetype, which is the left of captain, which is a big D, little C, to the left, a little bit more Yeah,
Okay.
that would be a pretty significant difference.
Okay.
So that's where you've taken something that used to be 4 quadrants, and we've been able to dissect it and make it way more accurate by these little changes here and there.
Perfect. I love that. And I love, that you sum it up in like 3 words, right?
Oh
Which is
yeah.
your type. You've got your intensity, right? Would that like kind of stimulate like the accuracy part, or what is the intensity exactly?
Yeah, so good question. That's also something that's kind of specific to Crystal
Okay.
is the intensity score. So basically, all that means is so we are complex, right? We have multiple sides of our personality. We have good days, we have bad days. We can
Mm-hmm.
change situationally, right? And so that intensity score really shows that more often, specifically in your case, you're a higher intensity. That shows that you more often than not align with these DI type principles and characteristics, right?
Okay.
So basically it means you're a DI and you have some other aspects here and there, but 9 out of 10 times, if I met you in a party or I met you in work in business mode, you're gonna be pretty much DI through and through. Whereas if you were more of a lower intensity, let's say a 20%, 30% intensity, that can vary and change your actual personality depending on the situation you're in. So in a sales sense, some people might ask a little bit more different questions than they would in a personal sense, right? Or in work mode, I act this way. In home life, I act this way. That really shows in the intensity score, which we think is highly valuable because we're complex.
Got it. I love that. So, and then you guys also do the Enneagram. So it kind of combines everything into one. Tell us a little bit about that one for a lot of people that are listening that may not know about this.
Yeah, so our software is disk specific. However, we are a personality based company and we do recognize Enneagram, Myers Briggs, Strengths Finders, Values. We have about 8 other assessments that we have available here for you guys. And the reason why is we are all about personal development, personal growth, right? You can't know how you communicate with others unless you know yourself first. And so that's where there's a lot of value in the Enneagram. There's a lot of value in Myers Briggs. Some people are huge fanatics of either one, right? And they want to be able
Mm-hmm.
to have aspects of that in our software. So we do provide that. But we chose DISC as the primary, I guess, what we built our software around because it's the best, in our opinion, for group dynamics, business dynamics, and sales holistically. Others are great at maybe some more in-depth, like I would say deep dive research on yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of hard to make that actually like actionable in the sense on how you can actually facilitate a behavioral change and do something with that knowledge. We do have others, but our insights specifically are DISC specific for a reason though.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that it breaks it down here. We still did the 16 personality types, our big 5 assessment,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
again, it was so accurate. I was blown away with some of the things that it came up with. So it was like perfect and easy for us to filter through. But the other thing that we use a lot in our organization are the strengths assessment and the values, which is something like we rely heavily on when we're speaking to each other as well. I'd love for you to touch on that.
Yeah, so the strengths. This is one of my favorites as well. Is I like it how like DISC is great. It makes things simple, but I do love these other assessments because it gives you a deeper dive somewhere else, right? So it shows
Mhm.
you the creativity, it shows you your level of learning, your kindness, your leadership, right? So those are things that are baked into DISC. Like
Mhm.
if you know DISC and if you're an expert like myself, right? Then I already know that those things are in your personality just because
Yeah.
of the complexity of DISC, but it really breaks it down in strengths to give you other aspects of someone's personality that it might be a little bit harder to find without being a DISC expert.
Mhm.
Um, on that subject, though, that's why we created Crystal, so people don't have to be a DISC expert.
Right.
Right? That was kind of, it's been around for a while. People that know it. People that don't, they think it's cool. And we wanted to create a software that took all of these insights that we think are extremely valuable for life and be able
Mhm.
to put it, in basic content for everyone to learn and grow from.
Yeah.
And that strengths assessment just highlights different aspects that are a little bit maybe more hidden in DISC. as well.
Definitely. And it goes into the values as well, which I think are super important. I love looking at the values for everyone in my organization. A lot of times the values help me really determine, what drives them, what motivates them, right? It's not always money, and it's not always, winning gifts and things like that. So what really motivates people in our organization is like super important as well.
100%. And that really goes into, I mean, it's how you hire someone, right?
Right.
What you are motivated by might not be what this candidate's motivated by. And you
Mm-hmm.
might be totally highlighting certain parts of your, benefits package or company culture or whatever that you really value, but might not be valued for them. Same thing in sales, right? I might be
Mm-hmm.
talking about something that's, I think, is the selling point of this, and it just is completely missing the ball with
Mm-hmm.
this prospect because that's not what they value. That's not what they're motivated by. And then obviously extremely useful for internal team building, training, all of that.
Definitely, definitely. So, something I think is super important too is the job fit. And I think what we're going to do is walk through, if you want to do that now, you want to walk through kind of like how we're using it for onboarding.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So as far as we can keep going on insights real quick just to kind
Okay.
of finish the profile page, I guess. Keep scrolling down. So that's basically going to be the end of our basically assessments.
Okay.
And you don't have to take all of them all at once. That's a little bit daunting for some people. But then right here is just our insights. So it literally just shows granularly, who you are and how you operate. So what comes
Mm-hmm.
naturally to Amanda, energizers for Amanda. We have about, I think it's 10 to 15 different insights there. And it really just gives your colleagues, your coworkers, everyone that has access to this tool knows what drains you, how to
Mm-hmm.
communicate when speaking to Amanda, right? So keep conversations brief, avoid being quiet or
My poor
reserved.
team that's listening, they know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's really what is we wanted to give actionable content here for
Mm-hmm.
colleagues, coworkers, mentors, anyone to be able to know how they can tailor their communication to reach someone more effectively. Um,
Yes.
it's not how I meant it to come across, it's how it actually came across. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole point of this profile page, really, how to work with Amanda. And then you have this cool little like endorsements on the far right. There's that thumbs up. So if it's something that you're like, this is 100% me, you can give yourself
Yeah.
a thumbs up and let other people know, this is
That's a
definitely.
100%, definitely.
Yeah.
But I think this is really interesting because we use this one a lot in our organization now. Like emailing is so important, and this is something I talk to amongst each other, right? Is, some people like to be overly detailed and use emojis and things like that. But when you're working as part of a team, like when emailing Amanda, like these are so important to take a
Yeah.
look at in our organization.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. It's funny because in my career, I've been a part of teams that aren't like me, right? Like, so
Mhm.
I'm a certain way, and I've been on very creative teams where if we got into disc, eyes are extremely creative people. I'm a
Mhm.
pretty high intensity D myself, so I'm all about action, executing, moving forward with decisions and things like that. And I came across very terse to my
Mhm.
colleagues.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm a terse person. It's not because I'm a frustrated person or anything along those lines. It's that I wasn't adapting myself to who my audience is and vice versa, right? And
Right.
so it adds a level of, I guess, frustration in the workplace unless you
Mhm.
understand who that person is, why they're acting a certain way, and what value that brings, right?
Right.
That's the key is it's not that what they're doing is wrong or bad or something that should be changed. It's just how they work, and how they work specifically brings
Mhm.
value. And
Yes.
you just need to like tie the two together, and all of
Mhm.
a sudden, like the world is your oyster. You're way more patient. You're understanding on who you're talking to, and then if you adapt just slightly differently, okay, instead of sending a huge email to Amanda, right? I'm
Yeah.
now sending a pretty brief one that to me might make me uncomfortable, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think this is enough. It comes across rude, but you're like, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Perfect. Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So there's a good saying in one of the disc books I've read. Actually, it's a Abraham Lincoln quote actually, and it's I don't like that person. I need to
Mhm.
get to know them better. And
Oh, I love that.
yeah, and it's basically just understanding your audience, understanding how to communicate with them, and really use that to your advantage. Because if I know how to communicate to you, and I'm getting the same points across that I would have if I communicated my way, they're just
Mhm.
landing better.
Yeah,
So that's basically it. But yeah, so this is just your profile
more.
page is what we're looking at, and
Yeah,
then to kind of jump into, I guess, the how you guys are using it for onboarding, right?
yes, definitely.
So at the far top, so we could. Do you want to get into the hiring tool, or just go straight into more of your onboarding playbooks that you're
We can get into more of like the onboarding playbooks. We
Cool.
can just walk through one of those.
You got it. So
All
at
right.
the very top, so we have something called playbooks, and what this is basically it's a cheat sheet or a game plan on how you can communicate with other people in your office. We'll talk about Teams today. So if you go to Teams, let's go to actually coworkers first, just to show them real quickly what this looks like.
Okay.
This is every single person in your organization and all of their disk types. So
Mhm.
you can go and look at any colleague, coworker that you're about ready to meet, and it's going to take them to their profile page for you to see
Mhm.
who they are. So that's a really fantastic tool. Now, going into Teams, let's go into Teams and then playbooks.
Perfect.
So what a playbook is it's basically a cheat sheet or game plan, right, on how to communicate with either whoever you're communicating with, a group, a singular person, for whatever situation that may be, and how to
Mhm.
build your communication style to better align with them. That's basically the bread and butter of this tool, is giving you that insights, those help. So just
So
go to new.
essentially, you can pick somebody from your organization
Oh yeah.
and compare your personality to them, which is my favorite thing about this.
Yes, 100%. And my favorite playbook, which we'll I guess just get into right now. Go to new playbook at the top right,
Okay.
and then let's pick a colleague of yours, Jody.
Sorry,
Perfect.
Jody.
Uh, so you can click into this, and so actually unclick one of them for now. Let's unclick yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
So the templates change. So now we're
Oh,
only picked
okay.
one person, and now what you see is individual templates. So this
Mhm.
is how to onboard Jody, or communicating, or Jody, communicating with Jody, working with Jody. One-on-one is more like quarterly reviews, annual reviews. So we have different templates, different scenarios here to help you navigate that situation with, depending on who you're with. And then as soon as you click a second person, it changes that to more, dual relationship scenarios,
Okay.
personality comparison, how to work together, resolving conflict. And you can click multiple, and then it changes to groups. So you've created this playbook already. Okay, so go back then. Just go
Okay.
to your go click Teams and playbook again.
There we go.
Yeah.
And new playbook. So create multiple ones, and then let's just say we'll do Jacqueline. She's probably listening too.
You can pull up the previous one you've made. That'll work as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Just go to Teams and then playbooks, and it should be one that's already made right there.
Perfect. We'll do the personality comparison with Jody and I.
Cool. I think the screen is a different one right now, Amanda.
Did it jump back? Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can update it. I think we're lagging a little bit. Let me stop the share and then I'll reshare it.
Perfect.
But that's the thing that I love about this the most, is that you can put people together and you can put groups together, because we don't just have, you're not working just one person.
Yeah.
We're a team in our environment. So we have 4 or 5 people sometimes working with towards one goal, and working with an agent specifically in real estate. And I know there's probably a lot of people listening that are in real estate that have heard about the DISC profile, but a lot of people that work in a team. And that's what I really wanted people to realize as well, how important it is to put all of that together.
100%. It's my most favorite thing about Crystal is if you have all 3 of our products and you actually like create a culture of DISC, You
Mm-hmm.
can amazingly use this cross-functionally across any sort of scenario, situation you may be in. Like if I was a realtor, I would honestly use the sales tool to predict all of my clients, right? They're trying to buy a
Mm-hmm.
house. I would
Right.
understand who they are, how they like to communicate, what I might bring up on a house. Oh, is this person more C-minded, which is more details, facts, analytics? So I'm talking about only square footage, comparison to other homes, yada, yada, right? And then if I'm dealing with someone more I, they're really visionary, creative. I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about wouldn't your family be beautiful in this house, right? Think about these, like I would go more on the gut feeling vision side of how I was showing a house. And then
Mm-hmm.
you work on a team, like you said, right? So you have the people that help with paperwork, you have a whole team around you to help facilitate these sales. And now you
Mm-hmm.
know how to work with your team better, more effectively. So it's any industry, honestly. Disc is fantastic for, but specifically sales because you're jumping around from different personalities all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is the you're good on the screen for the playbook.
Perfect. And this one I love because, once we launched this within our organization, it was funny. We had a lot of people doing their relationship, personality comparisons and sending them to each other. And it is just so eye-opening to actually read through it. So being able to compare yours with somebody else in the organization before you even walk into a conversation or before you even present an idea. So I'd love for you to walk through this and kind of how important it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said earlier, DISC is great for knowing about yourself, knowing about you and someone else, and so an audience or group. So,
Mhm.
this playbook right here is just diving into how you operate with Jody, right? And
Mhm.
it shows that you're different, right? So she's an IS, you're a DI. So on the map there, you're close. You definitely overlap on like the I tendencies, but they're
Mhm.
both kind of lower in your aspect, higher in hers.
Right.
So this shows just a relationship overview overall, and
Mhm.
then keep scrolling down. You actually see a comparison. So it shows on a whole map here, basically where you're similar and where you're different. And
Mhm.
this honestly is one of my favorite aspects of at least on broad strokes, looking at a really high level here on where we're similar is you're both
Mhm.
very expressive, right? But
Right.
she's a lot more collaborative than you are. You would
Mhm.
prefer a lot more autonomous work, and I can get. I know you guys not a ton, and I can guarantee you that this is accurate just off the brief
Oh,
you.
absolutely. This is very accurate. Yes.
Yes, 100%. You're more dominant. She's more supporting, right?
Mhm.
That also shows in your role. You have to be a little bit more dominant in decision making, which is why a lot of CEOs, a lot of people, leading companies, founding companies, do have a lot of D-type tendencies in them.
Mhm.
They're really competitive individuals. Does that mean your dominance is bad or you guys can't get along? No, absolutely not.
Mhm.
It just means that in your guys' relationship style and how you work together, it's something to be aware of. And just know, do I need to dial it back in this conversation right now? Am I good making this decision now? Is she, if she's aware of this, right? If Jody's aware of this, is this something that she's just going to be like, this is how Amanda is, this is great, this is the value this brings us, right?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it lowers any potential frustration, any potential lack of communication or anything, because we understand who we are and what we bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you look at this, what do you see? What do you get out of this?
Oh, I get out that, obviously Jody has strengths that I don't have and vice versa, right? So if we're able to communicate and really work together, it's like a beautiful bliss. We always talk about, if you've ever read the book Rocket Fuel, like I am definitely the visionary and the driver. And, Jody is more of that integrator and that support role. And like looking at this is it like maps that out perfectly.
Yeah, 100%. To kind of paint, I guess, like a personal story. So my family owns a business. She has about 35, 40 employees. My mom does. And she's actually an SI. So way more supportive, way
Mhm.
more someone that's like really genuine and caring. S's tend to like make decisions like a we, not a
Mhm.
me. So they're all about how does this impact the people around me? And then kind of myself is last. And funny story, she custom built an entire bakery and forgot to give herself an office. So that sort of mentality. And so
Right.
in broad strokes, you would say, well, that's probably not the best, founder or CEO of a company, because they
Mm-hmm.
might have trouble making hard decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who's her general manager? A D, right? To
Right.
offset and balance each other. Is there some tension? Is there, some miscommunication sometimes? Absolutely. But if they use DISC, understand that, hey, you have strengths that I don't. That's why you're here. I
Yeah.
have blind spots, right, that you counterbalance, right? And if
Mm-hmm.
we're aware of that, we can trust each other a lot more and say, okay, I'll let you take the reins on this one because this is where your sweet spot is. I'll take the reins on this one because this is where my sweet spot is. So I think
That's
exactly what you picked up on is the whole purpose of this. So
absolutely. And I think, coming from like a CEO perspective, anybody that's listening, like this is so important when you're looking at leadership, right? Pushing somebody into a leadership position. What other support roles are within that, that downline of that leadership position that will support those things that they may not be good at? And, being able to understand that. I think the hardest thing as a business owner is understanding not everybody works the same way you do, or is the same way you are, and will support everything that you're doing. So being able to balance it out and look at this is like so key. It's so key. And I think this has drastically changed the way that we walk into conversations with each other.
yeah, 100%. And something you kind of touched on is, not everyone works the way I work, not
Mm-hmm.
and that might not even be a work ethic thing, just a where our skills are, right,
Right.
and where we align with. And that's what I love the most about the hiring aspect of what we do
Right.
is we can actually break it down and say, hey, where are some behavior gaps here? Where are some issues that we see compared to this job you're trying to fulfill? It's not
Mm-hmm.
that you're not going to be a great person for this job. You totally could have the skills and qualifications to do everything, but you might
Mm-hmm.
get burnt out, right? You might use a lot of energy to do these tasks day in and day out, and it could cause a lot of stress, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
the last thing we would want to do. I still want to hire you, but let's tweak your job a little bit to put you in areas that you're built for, right? So that you can
Mm-hmm.
thrive, be successful. You're going to have way more patience. You're going to do all these things, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
because I'm looking at a lens of not a one size fits all, and I'm really trying to make it be where I'm looking at you as the person, finding out exactly how you're built, and
Mm-hmm.
designing a specific scenario for you to be in.
Yes.
So
I
it's
Yeah, I love that. I love half of some people from our organization are commenting and just saying how accurate it is, especially between Jody and I. It's too funny. A lot of them
yeah,
work with us day in and day out. But, I love just touching on like Natalie. She's in our organization and she's, doing a personality comparison with another person who's on the sales team. So it's so cool to see how people can align and be alike and be in two totally different roles as well.
100%. Yeah, it's all just being aware, and
Mhm.
the conversation we're having today is the whole point of this is
Right.
if we're not aware of it, and if we're just not having a conversation about it and growing and learning from our differences,
Mm-hmm.
then it's we're not being human, right? Humans have changes, but we have complexity, and knowing the difference there is key.
Is so key. And I think it's really interesting is how different we are on the disc, and then Jody and I pull together kind of on the Enneagram. So we're both the
Yeah,
caregiver type, which is very interesting. So I just love walking through all of this, as far as our strengths go, our values, and communicating effectively together and working together, which I think is my favorite part. So I'd love for you to touch on this.
yeah. So this is, so Jody, right? IS. So someone
Mhm.
that's eyes are typically. I like to say the example on like eyes. So if an eye shows up to a party, they know everyone at the party already.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and if they don't, they definitely will by the time the party's over, and they'll be in your favorites category of your phone. So
Yeah.
just very open-minded, very communicative, very social, very friendly. And then the D's tend to be a lot more direct, a lot more action oriented. They want to know really 30,000 viewpoints, right now, and then we're going to make a decision. So a lot more action execution oriented
Mm-hmm.
mindsets. And so here it says, Jody is likely to be very open-minded and a friendly communicator, while Amanda is more often being direct and assertive.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean, right, that being direct and assertive is bad. It doesn't mean that being friendly and open-minded is better, right? All
Mm-hmm.
this means is this is your differences, and being aware of that and be able to, okay, so for you, Amanda, when you show up on Monday to work and you have a meeting with Jody, let's maybe talk about our weekend first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's maybe just add a little flair of friendly communication, of
Mm-hmm.
more of a personal touch, because that's what matters to her. And then,
Mm-hmm.
and then in turn, right, she needs to be aware, let's make sure this doesn't last 40 minutes, right?
Yes.
Let's make sure this lasts 5 or 10, because Amanda wants to focus on, steps moving forward, being direct, being assertive. So it's not changing who you are, it's just changing
Mm-hmm.
how you communicate to better reach who you're communicating with.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of my favorite aspects of this playbook as well, for sure.
Yes. And I love you're able to kind of put it together again when you're looking at leadership roles and looking at people that might complement things that you're not so good at. But one thing I really want to touch on is, a lot of people do these personality profiles and they're kind of just like, that's who I am. Right. And, I want to make sure that, how do you guys constantly evolve this, or how do you suggest people to evolve it, and saying like, what are the things that we need to work on to be better in our role?
Great question. So there's a book I just read, and it is called The True Competitive Advantage, and it's
Mhm.
actually a DISC specific book. And we've written a book ourselves about DISC, but this one, the one thing I really like about this book specifically is in each, when they went through every single DISC type, they talked about what you can learn from that other DISC type. And so even though they might be exact opposites of myself, we all can learn from any sort of different type of person. And I think just having that mindset and you asking that question, right, is how can we be better at our job? How can I
Right.
take these differences and grow upon, is the foundation that we all need to be as humans, right?
Absolutely.
And kind of the one thing that we really try to stray away from is giving people their disc, right? And then saying, this is who you are, and having them just double down and plant that flag on, this is who I am. You have to work with me because this is
Mhm.
my disc,
Right.
right? It's actually the exact opposite. Be aware of how you communicate and know that sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to, right, that might not work well. It might work
Mhm.
great for certain people, right? It's fantastic for certain people, but it's not going to work well for others. And
Mhm.
so if I can be aware of who I am and be aware of blind spots of my personality, where this is an issue in my job, right? And be aware on, do I now change potentially? Do I offload some of my job
Mhm.
responsibilities onto someone else that this is where they would thrive at, right? Is that something that I just feel like a CEO has to do, right?
Right.
Or is that something that I can use my team because I'm aware of a blind spot of mine? And
Absolutely.
so even you asking that question shows immense value on how you view, your team, how you view yourself as well. Is, look, we're not all perfect, and
Mhm.
DISC is not meant to show you your downsides either. It's meant
Right.
to show you just who you are, and you take some reflection from that and make a decision on, is that, do you just work on an aspect that might be challenging for you? Is even just being aware enough to make you, grow and be better of a leader or a team member or whatever that may be. So
Definitely. And I think that, I do look at it as a self awareness tool, right, for everyone in our organization. And, something we're always working on is how to resolve conflict. We work in a very high paced environment, very teamwork environment. So difficult conversations are a must. And, I always encourage my team to go back and look at this. How do we resolve conflict with this person? How do we approach those difficult conversations? So I look at it as more of a tool to grow together than to identify who you are. And that's why I love this. And we're able to keep everything in one place, which we were looking for something like this for so long.
yeah,
And this has been a game changer for the way we communicate within our organization.
100%. And I mean, to kind of hitting a personal note there. So we're a startup, right?
Mhm.
So we've gone from 7 employees this time last year to now we're at 20, right? And are definitely expanding more than that. And so,
Mhm.
and I'm actually middle of a book called Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek. And
Love that book.
okay,
So good.
yeah,
Yes.
so it's all about your internal team, right? Your
Mhm.
internal team, you can't have any issues, you can't have any like turmoil or anything like that because you're always fighting external factors, right? Competition. You have software advances that could make your company obsolete in 2 seconds. So you're always having external factors that are attacking you. That the
Mhm.
last thing you need to do is have internal ones as well. And so building that internal, culture and having a DISC framework be there, where you're right. Sometimes you're going to have difficult conversations. But if I can know why this might be a difficult conversation and the
Mhm.
root cause of it, know that I can potentially help that change the situation you're in to maybe alleviate that, whatever that may be, or at least have a difficult conversation more polished,
Yes.
right?
Definitely.
It's all helpful. So,
Definitely. Well, this has immensely changed our organization. Again, not just the communication, but the identification during onboarding. We have everyone that's onboarding do this assessment. And it's so super important to put them within the team that they're going to be working with. So that's one of the first things we encourage them to do is look at their direct manager, right?
mhm.
Look at how their communication style is, look at their other teammates, things like that. And we have a lot of people that come in our organization that have actually never even experienced a disc profile. So it's like eye opening, and they're like, "Wow, this is really how I actually operate."
Yeah.
I can tell you just from a personal perspective, with almost 80 people in our tree and in this service, everyone is so spot on. So the accuracy for us has been so good. But just the ability to do those playbooks and to see how to work together has been really amazing. So just out of respect for your time, Connor, I'd love for you to share with us kind of how somebody gets in contact with you. How do they take a look at the different structures that might work for their organization? And I think the reason I wanted to really do this today is this is something that we've identified as the number one most important thing, is to learn how to communicate better with each other, become more self-aware of our personalities. And I think I can speak for probably everyone listening right now. That's such a key thing, as real estate is in such a growth, like we're in like growth mode, right? So we need to learn how to communicate with each other a lot more effectively, because it is high stress and high strung. So I want to just share the goodness that you guys have brought our organization with everyone listening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been awesome. And to kind of touch on that, look, if you're in a high stress environment and if you're high stress, high performance, market's going crazy, right? That's
Mhm.
going to bring out the blind spots, the downsides of differences,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's just human nature, right? And so if you can learn how to minimize that impact and grow as a team or grow as a client, a realtor relationship, whatever that may be,
Mhm.
it's a stressful time for everyone. So if you can customize that language, that is perfect. So I
Mhm.
guess how to get in contact with us is, our website is www.crystalknows, so CRAYSTAL, so crystal and then knows, KNOWS.com.
Okay.
And then we also have a support email that you feel free to reach out to for any questions as far as pricing or anything like that. It's hello@crystalknows.com. That's the two best ways to probably get in contact with us. We have enterprise stuff and self service. So if you just wanted, license for yourself, that works as well. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm all about spreading disc. I'm very passionate about it, and I don't even see it as a business tool. I really see it as just a life tool.
It is a life tool for sure. And it's funny because my son is interning for us over the summer, so he did it. And he's about to be 16, and the first thing he did was send me our personality comparisons. And it
Were they
was
similar?
they weren't similar. He's a high I. He's
Okay.
so but in a way it was funny how I can't even remember what it said, but it was like our life story, where it's
Yeah.
like, he's always trying to do more and say more, but I tend to take over the conversation
Yeah.
and tell him what to do. And I'm like, yeah, that's about accurate.
Yeah, 100%. You can look at families
Yeah.
and see massive differences between
Hmm.
people that have grown up their whole life together.
Yeah.
It just shows that you can paint some funny scenarios. it's a great talking point at parties.
Mhm.
Disc as well. I think absolutely everyone should at least get a baseline knowledge of disc as early as possible, and it
Mhm.
only opens your eyes like in a different lens the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we've been able to help you guys along that journey as well.
Definitely. You guys have absolutely helped us. Connor, thank you so much for sharing this with our audience. Tell me again, I'm going to throw it in the chat how they get in touch with you directly.
So it's hello at
Okay.
Crystal Knows, so CrystalKnows.com.
Okay.
And then the actual website is just crystalknows.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect. And
Feel
guys,
free to look me up on LinkedIn as well if you guys want to connect with me that way. Totally open to all avenues.
all right, perfect. I'm throwing all that in the chat. So anyone listening that wants to connect with Connor, I'm putting his information in there as well. This will be available for playback. I know that was a lot of information at one time, but you guys do a lot of demos, right? So anybody that wants to reach out and, do a demo with you for free, you're more than open to that.
Yeah, we have a whole sales team specifically on the enterprise side of things. So if you and your small team, wanted a little package, they do demos all day. And then anytime you guys do have more of a business style account, you do get a dedicated customer success manager, which would be myself or some colleagues on my team to actually do customized training with you, walk you through the product, and really talk about specific niches for your organization holistically. So a lot of avenues there.
Yes. I'm sure there's a ton of things we didn't touch on because this truly is such a beast of a personality and self-awareness tool. But I so appreciate your time today, Connor, and anyone that's listening. If you guys are looking for a way to level up the communication amongst your team, level up your onboarding and making sure that you're putting people in the right positions, the right place on that bus, this is a no-brainer and has been such an instrumental tool for us. So we appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, you did great on your first live. You're a natural.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Right.
Well,
thanks, Connor.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.